He's been a useful idiot for Russia for years. And now because they're trying to change the subject.
Is Biden a useful idiot?
Okay.
Talking about because it started when Biden was president. I'm just curious if you're going to hold Biden the same standard. If Donald Trump's always a useful idiot, then Joe Biden should be.
Tara Setmayer went on Abby Phillip's show on CNN to go up against two of the biggest MAGA trolls in all of media, Scott Jennings and Ben Ferguson. As part of a panel on Abby Phillip's show, the discussion was about Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin. We're going to take a look at these clips of Tara Setmayer, Scott Jennings, Ben Ferguson, and the rest on Abby Phillip's show. I will share my thoughts on this as well. Let's get into it together.
The president has solved like 7 conflicts this year. I'm willing to give him some latitude to talk to Vladimir Putin and break the deadlock and try to move us toward a place where the killing comes to an end, because I think that's what we should all be praying for.
He actually hasn't solved 7 conflicts. There's been a lot of talk about that.
What reality do you live in? He's literally got these guys in the White House where they're signing documents and shaking hands. Acknowledge the man is solving peace.
India questioned about whether that was an actual deal.
It happens on almost a weekly basis. Just acknowledge it. Just acknowledge it.
And I will also acknowledge that Donald Trump seems to have an affinity for Vladimir Putin in a way. No, you're not going to get away with calling me a liar. I know that's like the line you like to throw out, but I'm not lying.
You're lying.
Nobody's lying about anything. You can ask the countries who were involved in this whether those conflicts were actually solved by Donald Trump or whether it was pomp and circumstance.
Okay.
Anyway,
whatever you say.
So Donald Trump's affinity for Vladimir Putin.
I just got to stop here for a second. This Scott Jennings, and this is what CNN does. This isn't a serious guy. He's a clown. They have Scott Jennings on here to be a troll and to act like a douche. But could you imagine? I can't. But could you imagine being locked in a room or trapped in a broken elevator with Scott Jennings and Ben Ferguson? These two would just be trying to outsmirk each other and just trying to say whatever disingenuous, trollish thing that they could possibly say. I don't know how people like Tara Setmayer can even be on the same set with them. I'm sure she's paid well to be there, so that makes up for it. But why are these MAGA people so weaselly and smirky and smug? I just don't get the personality type.
Versus the way he treats Zelensky, who's the one
Did he show affinity to them when he just arranged for the arms to NATO? I'm just sorry, Abby. We're saying things that do not exist in reality. He just got NATO to do hundreds of millions of dollars of lethal weapons to Ukraine. What affinity to Russia is that?
It's crazy. Let me just let her finish so I can even understand what point she's trying to make. Let me let her finish the point.
Okay. So we all have seen how Donald Trump has been has an affinity for Vladimir Putin. We have seen the pattern for years, and only recently, because he hasn't been able to solve the crisis in 24 hours, because Putin has been playing him from day one. He's been a useful idiot for Russia for years, and now because they're trying to change the subject.
Is Biden a useful idiot?
Okay.
Because it started when Biden was president. I'm just curious if you're going to hold Biden the same standard. If Donald Trump's always a useful idiot, then Joe Biden should be held accountable for almost 2 years ago.
Let me go back for 1 second.
Joe Biden didn't take the side of Vladimir Putin over our own intelligence agency the way Donald Trump did in Helsinki. So let's not even go there.
Part of the point that she's making is that Trump, first of all, he needs to resolve this because he said when he was running for president that he would resolve it in 24 hours. That clearly has not happened. But he wants to be a peacemaker. He wants to be a peacemaker in the situation. He wants the Nobel Peace Prize, that whole thing. And this has been elusive largely because Vladimir Putin is not that interested in the deal. He's not. So, I mean, is Trump going into this a little bit naive, thinking that Putin is actually ready to deal when what Putin really wants is complete victory?
This is the part that is, I think, is really just sad. Is that there's people that are sitting at this table that clearly want this to be a failure.
Where are those people?
I think you're one of them.
What? You don't put words in my mouth. I never said that, and neither did Dan.
You come out here with the talking points. Oh,
we want him to negotiate from a position of strength, not bringing a war criminal on U.S. soil and stating, I'm not allowed to interrupt you, but you can interrupt me and overtalk the whole time.
I heard a lot of what you said. I heard a lot of what you said, and a lot of it was against Trump. I go back to what I was saying.
So Ben Ferguson says, I heard a lot of what you said to Tara Setmayer, and it was against Trump. Because Ben Ferguson and Scott Jennings, they basically want a North Korea-style system in which you just never criticize the dear leader. And like Tara Setmayer said, during the entirety of her speaking, you have Scott Jennings rolling his eyes and smirking and interrupting and calling her a liar, and Ben Ferguson on the other side interrupting her and essentially calling her a liar. Again, this is CNN's business model, is just to have these people fight on there. But why don't they just say, it's not really Abby Phillip's job, but the producer just say, cut these assholes' mics so we can allow Tara Setmayer to speak. And of course, in the minds of MAGA creeps like Ben Ferguson, criticizing the dear leader is the same thing as wanting him to fail. Saying Donald Trump is an idiot, I mean, I'm paraphrasing, this isn't exactly what Tara Setmayer said, but saying that Donald Trump is an idiot who doesn't have the capacity to really negotiate and keep up with Vladimir Putin is not the same as saying we want the United States to fall to Putin, to fail. It's ridiculous. But we know that Donald Trump is not smart enough to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin plays Donald Trump at every opportunity. We saw this in Donald Trump's first term when he met with Putin and Trump came out and said, "Oh, I believe what Putin is saying." So no, Ben Ferguson, Americans who actually love the country and want us to succeed are not hoping for failure. We're hoping to have an actual intelligent leader who isn't a con man like the guy that you support, to lead our country and to actually have real negotiations with Vladimir Putin and to actually keep this guy in check. And Scott Ferguson talks about 7 conflicts that Donald Trump has ended. What are we even talking about? Like Tara Setmayer says he didn't end 7 conflicts. But again, apparently Scott Jennings gets good ratings for CNN, and that's why they have him on there. But he has to be one of the biggest trolls on any kind of media. And the same thing with Ben Ferguson. When you have a tag team of disingenuousness, these 2 clowns on each side of Tara Setmayer, Scott Jennings and Ben Ferguson, I don't know how you would even stand to be there. Like I said at the beginning, imagine being trapped in an elevator with these 2 freaks, these 2 trolls. But let me know what you think about all this. How do you feel about Scott Jennings? How do you feel about Ben Ferguson? Who do you think is the biggest online or on television MAGA troll? Ben Ferguson goes on Piers Morgan's show all the time and does this same shtick, interrupting anybody who's on the left or Democrat or progressive. You know, with Tara Setmayer, she's a former Republican. This is how bad MAGA is, that you have all of these former Republicans who have switched over to be Democrats, or at the very least to be never-Trumpers, because of how horrible things are with Donald Trump and MAGA. But let me know what you feel about what Tara Setmayer had to say, what Scott Ferguson had to say, what Ben Ferguson had to say on Abby Phillip's show on CNN. Make sure to give me a like and subscribe. I'm Chris on Culture, and I will see you in the next video.